So, CF Moto has done it again, and before I got the bike, I really thought about making a thumbnail with a Chinese flag or a Chinese in the name, something, but I refused to do that because this motorcycle is really good. I'm gonna show this in this video, and welcome to the original. So you may ask why again, because this is the sixth bike in the lineup of CF Moto, and they have these bikes in all categories from 1 cylinder to 2 cylinders. This one here is a 3 cylinder inline, and with that we're gonna hop into the chapter of the engine. So as I said, you can't say it's a classic CF Moto engine because they changed their engine systems completely wild. They also said they're gonna bring out a 200 horsepower V4 in a super sportler this year, the EICMA. So yeah, it's not a classic. This one, as I said, is an inline 3 cylinder with 90 horsepower, but this is the Euro spec. In the US or in Asia, you might get the engine with 95 horsepower. And it also got 68 Newton meters at 8,250 RPM. And this is quite similar to the Triumph Trident 660. So this means it's a quite high revving engine. Something very unusual is that the bike does not have a ride-by-wire system. It still uses a classic throttle cable. Because of that, the throttle response has a little bit too much free play, which can cause small jerks when you open the gas again after you closed it. But it's not that dramatic. Apart from that, the engine runs extremely smooth and with a very few vibration. It feels very similar to the Triumphs. Acceleration is strong enough, especially up to like 120 kilometers per hour. It pushes forward nicely, but not too aggressively. And at higher speed, it becomes a bit weaker, and the top speed is limited to 200 kilometers per hour, at least in Europe. There are no power holes, the engine pulls right from the start. From 4,000 revolution it picks up pretty well with an extra kick after 6,500 RPM and then slowly runs out of breath near the limiter. For everyday riding, commuting and even touring, the performance is more than enough. The engine is very linear, smooth and easy to control. It's perfect for new riders in the big license class or for people who came back to riding after some years. The only negative point is that it's a little bit too loud at idle with 98 decibel, but again, that's a European problem. Service intervals are a bit short. You need to do service every 5,000 kilometers, but valve checks are only needed after 40,000 kilometers, which is good. So the short service intervals, it's the same for Royal Enfield, and it's mainly for bikes which are sold mainly in Asia or India, because the streets there are not always as clean and as good as they are in Europe or in the States. So the bikes get used a little bit more. That's why they have these short service intervals, and they just bring these intervals with them to Europe or the US. To sum this engine up in my words, it's it's, as I said, it's very linear, it's easy to control. It's not a powerhouse, so you can't power wheelie it, or when you get out of a corner, second gear at 4,000 revolutions, it's not pulling crazy because it does not have a lot of torque. If you compare it to like the, I had the Speed Triple 4 weeks ago here. This is a whole different world. So you have to twist the throttle pretty hard after, especially after hairpins, for example. But it's fine. It's absolutely fine. It works well. It's easy to control. Once you're on the gas and the cables are tight, also this system works pretty well and sounds okay. It's a little bit louder, but it produces quite a nice sound. Doesn't sound like Euro 5 Plus. And overall, I'm pretty astonished, to be honest. So there's nothing I can really complain about. Yes, 90 horsepower is, it's not that much. So of course at like 140 kilometers per hour, which is like, I don't know, 80, 90 miles per hour, it gets a little bit slower, but that's fine for me. So suspension and chassis wise, this is where it gets the biggest surprise. So let's talk about that. So if you look at the dimensions, this motorcycle looks aggressive and compact, and the wheelbase is only 1400 millimeters. The steering angle is 66.3 degrees, and the weight with fuel is only 189 kilograms, and that promises a lot of fun and a lot of aggressive. The suspension comes from Kayaba. The fork is adjustable in compression and rebound. The rear shock is also adjustable. The brakes are dual 300mm discs in the front with 4-piston calipers and 240mm discs at the back, braided cables in the front, non-braided in the rear. The bike uses tires in the size 120/70 front and 180/55 rear from CST. First thing to mention is the tires. So at first they feel neutral, but then they fall into the corner. Other tires do that too, but it's not really my taste. However, it's a matter of preference and training. The bike does not weigh too much, it's very compact, and with this steep steering angle, it rides exactly like that, super agile. Tight circles are extremely easy to ride with it as well. The balance is correct, and in almost every corner I went in too early. That shows how sporty the geometry is. In the corners, it's mostly very stable, and I think that is thanks to the suspension. The suspension is really impressive. I once rode it again on the worst road in the whole galaxy, and I think this was the best performance so far. And I got so confused by that I went back again in the evening, but yes, the performance was really good. In some rare cases, mostly when braking hard, together with bumps in the road, the rear jumped up a little bit, and that means the rebound setting was wrong, but I guess that's why it's adjustable. When changing directions quickly, the rear was almost too nervous and even allowed small braking drifts. That's freaking crazy. You can find the hang-off position very easily, but then the bike closes the radius and goes into the corner. That's really amazing. And seriously, on country roads, that is impressive. It does not have the cornering stability of a street triple, but hey, it's much more agile and still stable enough. And from a Kayaba suspension, I did not expect that. The front end reminded me a little bit of the Kawasaki Z900. And my absolute highlight is the adjustable steering damper, which comes already from the factory, and you can even adjust it quickly while riding, and that's really great. And you really need it. On the highway, I don't know what was going on. It's a rough autobahn near Ulm. The handlebar shook once very strongly. That was not funny at all. But this is the price you pay for such a sharp geometry, where the front wheel becomes very reactive. Also, the light banana-shaped swing arm looks and performs really nice. And you may have noticed the brake cooling. Do you need it? Absolutely not. But I like that they dared to do it. So the discs are only 300 millimeters, so they won't overheat that fast because they really don't break extremely strong. The feeling is good, the initial bite is okay, and the modulation is good, but it doesn't blow me away. I must admit I'm a little bit spoiled by riding all these super naked bikes. But still. In the front we have steel braided brake lines, adjustable levers, everything is black and radial, that's awesome, that's solid, and for the middle class it's at least on class level, if not better. But of course it's not a Brembo style Lima caliper with MCS master cylinder, that's very clear. But there's one thing I couldn't get used to 100% during all the time, and that was the seating position. As I said, the suspension feels sporty touristic, the geometry is sporty, but the seating position is only touristic. You sit very integrated, and I think the handlebar is turned a bit too far forward and is slightly too high compared to the height of the seat. So somehow it felt like a compromise for smaller riders, and I didn't find that really great, but I also have the body shape of a golem. Still, it was very comfortable though. So the suspension chassis part, when I tested these, was like, this is where I decided I'm not gonna name this a Chinese bike or China bike to minor its performance, because man, that I didn't expect that at all. So I was like, yeah, it's gonna be kind of good, but no, it's really good. And at least I didn't ride the Yamaha MT-09, the new Trident, the 25 models, but I rode the 23 and 24 models, and also of the Kawasaki Z650. And if you compare this one to the 23, 24 models, this one outperforms them all. The engine is, I mean, it's got the most power of them. It's 90 horsepower, and the chassis is ridiculously good for this not only for this amount of price, but for these middle class, it's really awesome. The only thing I would complain are the tires. I mean, they're Chinese tires, CST. I needed some time to trust them. Still, they don't perform always as I want to, so I would switch them to Dunlop's MK4, like the Sportsman MK4. Just recently tested them, which are ridiculously good tires, with best feedback on the front ever had. And these ones are gone, I guess, like after 4,000 kilometers. So just switch them to Dunlops, and you have a really awesome handling bike. So the gearbox is no surprise here. It's a 6-speed sequential gearbox. We got a quick shifter for shifting up. We don't have a blipper for shifting down. Of course, we don't have that because we don't have a ride-by-wire, and you need this to give this little tweak of power to get the downshift, so we don't have a blipper here. And that's a pity because I personally find the blipper is more important, but the bike has a slipper clutch, and from a safety perspective, that's more important. The gear ratios are arranged so that they get closer together at the top, which is fine. The first gear goes up to 83 kilometers per hour, but like on most bikes, it's mainly only for starting. The second gear already goes up to around 120 at the speedo, and together with third gear, these are the main gears you will use. In second gear, the bike already rides well and does not shake much at low speed. Third gear is if you're gonna twisties for the faster guys. From fourth gear on, you can almost cruise. In sixth gear at 100 kilometers per hour, the engine runs around 4,500 revolutions, which is good for fuel saving, and this is about where the engine feels comfortable. And on country roads, I often did not even go past the fifth gear. There are no false gears, finding neutral is easy. The shift travel could be a bit shorter and sharper, but that's only noticeable when riding very sporty. Basically, you cannot complain. The gearbox makes a little clonk sound, but it shifts cleanly. And if you want to blip manually, that works wonderful, especially in the lower rest between 4 and 6,000. Sometimes it even reminded me of a Honda when downshifting. Also, the gear lever is a very nice milled part. It's, for my taste, it's like a little bit too short, like by half a centimeter, but yeah, you really have to search for these kind of faults. Plus, it also makes, like the Ducati Streetfighter V2 2025, it makes almost the same sound from the airbox when upshifting, especially from second to third gear. And this sound here is so damn aggressive. It almost sounds like, oh, there's something wrong. It sounds like something is screaming, like a demon screaming, combined with a whip. It's like this sound. that's almost disturbing, but I really like it. So, yeah, no real complaints about the gearbox. Well done. So electronic wise, it really gets wild because CF Moto, like in the older models, they got a little bit too funky with the designs of their dashboards. But this 5-inch TFT is one of the best in the whole motorcycle market. So everything is shown on a screen. You cannot choose another layout, and you don't need one because everything is here. Yes, it even includes tire pressure and tire temperature, and the water temperature is shown in degrees Celsius, not only with small bars. You also got traction control. It can be set to 2 levels and can also be turned off. You can even do this with one button while riding. And yes, there's a button for just traction control on the left side. That's great. I actually use traction control most of the time because even on level 1 it barely worked. That is very interesting. And of course it has ABS. But there are no riding modes. You can control the power with your hand and the throttle cable. But with the app you can also connect your phone and you have something like a Moto Play. The buttons on the handlebar feel very nice, very sensitive, with good feedback. That clearly shows the cooperation with KTM. And there's also automatic indicator reset. So what can you criticize on the electronics? You have no, what is the tempomat called? Like, you don't have a cruise control, and we don't have a 6-axis IMU. But why do I always want a 6-axis IMU? Because you got ABS, cornering ABS, and normally you can switch off the wheelie control and still got traction control. But this traction control here setting is wild. So I even tested it on this small stripe with loose ground on gravel. But well, the bike said, let's just see if the dude can handle it itself. On the street when I was braking hard and then went into the corner and went a little bit too hard on the gas, it even slid a little bit on the rear. And I was like, dude, you like traction control. Now's the time to work. So it was really confusing, sporty. But I'm a complete idiot because I never tested level 2. So you can turn it off, then you got level 1, and level 2 is a little bit more safer. I never tested that, but level 1 is not restrictive at all, which is awesome, which is sporty, which is confusing for new riders. So I would highly recommend to switch it on level 2, but that made a lot of fun. Also, the translation, I can only show you that in German. So the quick shifter is called fast changer or something like this. It's a little bit funky, so you have these translation mistakes, but who am I to complain? Electronics, very well done. Also impressive when we talk about touring is the fuel consumption, fuel capacity, and therefore how far you can get with the bike. And this is like 300 kilometers. And I even think the bike can really do that. If you don't go on the Autobahn and escalate there, um, the fuel consumption, which is shown in the display, is actually correct. It's like the first time that ever happened to me, but this has a really good calculation of your consumption and yeah, the capacity you still got. Fuel consumption, by the way, is about 43 miles per gallon in the United States or 51 miles per gallon. There are two colors available, white and gray, both matte painted. The stickers are not covered with clear coat, but it's okay. The overall build quality is actually good. The cables are connected very cleanly, nothing is hanging out, and the materials do not feel cheap. The exhaust, I guess it's brushed, but at least it's stainless steel. Painting looks very solid. There are covers where there should be. There's a little bit much of a material mix, but nothing that screams cheap. The design is very futuristic, and I can already know that people will call the front mask an insect face. But well, it's their style, and I personally like it more than the NK800 from 1 year ago. The warranty in Europe is 4 years, and all of this comes at a price of 7,000 euros, at least in Europe, which is a good amount cheaper than what Triumph. So Triumph pricing here is 8,300. The Yamaha is 8.5, and the Kawasaki is 7.5. So this one is the cheapest, but as I said, it outperforms the other ones. So if you like the design, I do not know why you shouldn't pick this one. So to sum this up, what are the big problems of this bike? So when you go above 100, 150 kilometers per hour on the Autobahn, the front becomes a little bit loose. So you really need to tighten the damper. But that's, I mean, it's normal, or it's neutral for a bike which has this sharp of a geometry. So that's one downside. The other one is the cable operated gas, and we have the short service intervals. But actually, that's it. So I didn't expect that at all. I thought it was like an okay bike, but this performed really good. Someone on Instagram asked me, like, I should not only tell how good it is for its price, but also compare with the competitors. And yeah, as I said, I think it outperforms the competitors, at least in the middle class. It almost feels like the upper middle class. So it's lacking, of course, it's lacking power and torque to get in the class of the MT-09 and Duke 990 and Street Triple. Chassis and suspension wise, and that really performs good. The only downside maybe on the back is the adjustability is just in steps, but that's it. So if you find a dealership nearby and you're good with the 5,000 kilometer service intervals, I don't know what speaks against this bike. So if you own a CF Moto and you have experience long term, please share them with us in the comment section. Because of course I got this bike for 4 days. I rode like 800, 900 kilometers. I do not have long term information for you. I'm very sorry, but for the parts I tested, it was really good. Once again, I managed to do the video in English, which is very tiring for me because I need to concentrate a lot on what I say, and sometimes it's confusing. Still, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you the next time.